Welcome students to another class of political science with me. In this session, I'll be taking again your chapter 4, okay? Chapter 4, liberty, continuation from the previous session. Okay, in the previous session we have started with the meaning of liberty, yeah? And we also discussed the two notions or the concept of liberty, that is the positive notions of liberty and the negative notions of liberty. We also talk about that both these positive and negative notions of liberty is needed in the functioning of the society. We cannot totally agree with one notion and disagree with the other notion. We need both these, that is the positive and the negative notions. All right, in this session, we'll talk about this topic, okay? The various dimensions or forms of liberty. In other words, what are the different kinds of liberty? Okay. There are four, okay? There are four different kinds of liberty. First, we have the civil liberty, we have political liberty, we have economic liberty, and number four, we have racial or national liberty. Okay, now in the first one, civil liberty. Under civil liberty, we have five broad again points. That is, I've written in the board: protection of life, personal liberty, we have domestic liberty, we have freedom of speech and assembly, we have the religious liberty, and lastly, the freedom of movement. So let's talk about the first one. Okay, now protection of life and personal liberty. This is a very important, or this is one of the most important, okay, points of liberty that an individual needs to have. Even in the Indian Constitution, we have this protection of life and personal liberty that is guaranteed under your fundamental right, that is in your Article 21. That is protection of life and personal liberty. Again, it is under your Article 21. Okay, it means that everyone, okay, you and I have the right to life, as well as we have our personal liberty. We cannot be, arrested on any arbitrary grounds, or we cannot be illegally detained. In other words, if a person has been arrested or has been detained illegally, we can approach the Supreme Court or the High Court to fight for our liberty or to fight for our freedom, because this is under our fundamental right. And like I've said in the previous session, while we are doing the Constitution, fundamental rights are those rights which are justiciable. Yeah, it can be justified as well as enforceable. That means if any of your fundamental right has been infringed or violated, you can approach the court to fight for your justice or your freedom. So here, protection of life. If, okay, in any case you have been illegally detained, you can approach the Supreme Court and the court will provide a solution or a remedy to protect this through the writ, okay? Through the writs. Okay, for illegal detention we have the writ of habeas corpus. Okay, through this writ, okay, it will provide a remedy for your illegal detention. Now, habeas corpus, it is under your constitutional remedies, that is Article 32. All right. Now, this habeas corpus, it is derived from the Latin word which means you may have the body. Now, through this writ, the court will give a solution for your illegal detention, and if no valid, okay, is found for this cause for illegal detention, the Supreme Court or the High Court will issue a statement for your release. Okay, so this is one of this protection of life. Now, when it comes to personal liberty, you have the right to act freely, to move freely, yeah, and also to have your own lifestyle also. Now, you can have, that is the right to life. Okay, now your family setup, that is also in your total freedom. So when it comes to personal liberty, it is everything, or it is to do with the way you want to live, the way you want to act, or the way you want to move from one place to another. Okay, so this is under the first point, that is your protection of life and personal liberty. Now, when it point number 2, domestic liberty. The word domestic, it is referring to a household, right? It's referring to the rights of husband, wife, and children in doing their activities. Now, both the husband and the wife, they have the freedom to run the family they want to, what type of family, the type of education they want to give to their children also. Now, here, when it talks to this domestic liberty, the right to privacy. Okay? The right to privacy here plays a very important role in the domestic liberty. Now, this right to privacy, it has been your fundamental right. With the latest judgment given by the Supreme Court, it is now your fundamental right. Previously, it was not your fundamental right. Now, the court has given the verdict. It is now your fundamental right. It is under protection of life and personal liberty. Now, point number 3, that is freedom of speech and assembly. Okay, now freedom of speech and assembly, it is a very important freedom to develop your moral as well as your mental development. Yeah, it also improves your intellectual also. Now, moreover, we cannot have, a public opinion or a public gathering if the freedom of speech or assembly, it is absent. Now, when we talk about your freedom of speech and assembly, okay, it is not only talking about the individual's right to speech and assemble, okay? It is also talking about the rights of media, that is televisions, newspapers, magazines, where they have this right, that is the right to speech in their writings or in their work. Now, freedom. Okay, when he talks about this freedom of speech, this freedom, okay, freedom of speech does not mean that you can act the way you want to. Some restrictions can be imposed, all right, in your freedom. Now, what is this restriction? Now, these restrictions will be imposed if it is in the interest of maintaining law and order, moral, or decency. Okay, for maintaining law and order, moral, and decency, restrictions will be imposed on your freedom of speech and assembly. Okay, now point number 4, religious freedom. Okay, now you have the freedom to profess, propagate, and any religion that you want to. In fact, India, she adopted a secularism, secular state, because with the partition of India, during the freedom struggle that is between India and Pakistan, basing on religious ground, India went on to adopt a secular state. That is, India did not declare herself as a Hindu nation. It allowed the people, or it allowed the citizens of India to follow any religion they want to. Okay, under your religious freedom, it says that state, the state cannot interfere in the religious activities or belief of your religious life. Okay, you can convert to other religions or you can do anything that is under your freedom. Okay, now state cannot interfere in your religious belief, but the state can make laws. Okay, here the state can make laws if it is the interest of maintaining the state or reforming the state. The state can make laws if it interferes to your religious belief. Okay, that is only if. Okay, if it is to make or if it is to reform the state. Okay, laws can be made even if it infringes or if it comes in conflict with your religious liberty. Now, the last point, freedom of movement. Freedom of movement, from this word, we can say that you have the freedom to move from one place to another, interstate. That means you can travel to any state of India. You want to, you can also go abroad, that is outside India, you can travel. You have the freedom, provided that you have the necessary legal documents or visa to support your travel. Okay, so these are the 5 categories under your civil liberty. Okay, life, protection of life, domestic liberty, we have religious liberty, freedom of movement, and lastly freedom of speech and assembly. Now let's go to your second one, that is your political liberty. Okay, political liberty. Under your political liberty, what will be the most important? It will be your right to vote. Right to vote during elections. India went on to adopt a universal adult suffrage, that is the right to vote, which is given to all the citizens of India who has attained the age of 18 years. They can right to vote. Now the next one. The next one will be, you have the right to form any political party. Okay, you can come up with any political party you want to. That's the reason why India, she has a lot of national party, she has state party, and a whole lot of religious or a regional party also. Now, the next one will be, you have the right to get elected in the legislature or any local or public bodies. You can contest elections. Okay, not only the right to vote, but also you can contest elections to the state assembly or to the even to the Lok Sabha or Rajya Sabha. You have the right to contest election under your political liberty. That is your political freedom. Now, point number 4. That is, you have the right to criticize the government. This is another important feature. You can raise your voice against any laws that the government has passed if that laws is not in accordance with the voices or if it does not suit the interests of the masses of the people. Now, how will you voice out this? How will you criticize? Through your representative that you have voted for during the elections. Okay. Now, right to criticize the government, this freedom, okay, to speech, to criticize, it is absent, or we can say that this is absent in the authoritarian or a military form of government. Yeah, it cannot be exercised. Now, freedom of speech and movement will mean nothing if the freedom to criticize is not there. So these are the 4 points that is under your political liberty. That is, you have the right to vote, you can organize any political party, you can come up with any party. Point number 3, you can contest elections. Point number 4, you have the right to criticize the government. Now, the other kind of liberty will be your economic liberty. Okay, economic liberty. Now, when it comes to economic liberty, it means you have the freedom to acquire property, okay, to acquire land, and also to be the owner of that land. Okay, something to do with ownership, buying of land. Now, point number 2, you have the participation to have these workers have the right to participation in the management affairs, not only in this working level, but they also have the freedom to participate in the managing the affairs or the activities of the industries that they are engaged in. Now, point number 3, you also have the freedom or the right to get a job according to your capability or to your interests. Now, when it comes to this job, the most important will be you have the right to rest and leisure. Okay, you have the right to rest and leisure. That means that you have to work in or under the working hour that is being passed by the law. You cannot work more than the working hours that has been given or that has been passed by the law, or that is the government. If you have worked more than the working hours, that means you can fight for your rights or the liberty, because the working hours is fixed by law. And if any of this law has been infringed, you have the right to approach any of the court to fight for your rights. Okay. Now here, under economic freedom, we have the concept of the Marxist. Okay. The Marxists, they say that the state should come up. Okay. The state should come up to protect the miseries. Okay. Since the state, it is a welfare state, it should lower the misery of the state. Okay. Now, they went on to say that it is the role of the state to lower down the problem that the state or the masses has been facing, but they did not point out or they did not talk about the activities of the capitalists. That is one of their drawback. Okay. They see that freedom is possible. Okay, freedom, that is your liberty, it is possible only when the means of production, and distribution is controlled and owned by the state. When I say means of production and distribution, it means control of banks, industries, railways, everything that is being controlled by the state. That means there will be freedom. So that is the notion of the Marxists. But we can say that all the points or all the things that the Marxists have said cannot be accepted, because in a communist country, for example, China, Russia, North Korea, we see the existence of only one political party, that is the Communist Party. The Communist Party is the one which take the sole decisions. In such type of party or in such type of governance, your freedom of speech and your assemble or your freedom to criticize the government is absent. That's the reason why everyone of us knows what happened in the Tiananmen Square, in China, where the right to protest, that is, people who were protesting, who were raising their voice, freedom of speech, who were exercising this, they were crushed by the use of force. So in such a country, your freedom of speech, it becomes a mockery in front of the democratic form of government. Now, the last one, we have the racial and national liberty. Okay, this is your last kind of liberty, that is your racial and national liberty. Here, Hope House, okay, a prominent writer, Hope House, he has enumerated or he has laid down a lot of liberty, different kinds of liberty, where this racial and national liberty, it had a prominent place in the type of liberty that he has given. Now here, the racial and national liberty, here the main focus is that every nation, every nation has the right to self-determination. When I say self-determination, means that the country has the right to form or to have the type of government they want to. That is, they want to have a democratic form of government, they wanted to have a presidential or a dictatorial form of government. It is the right of that nation. Now, no nation can be or should be follow the principle of colonization. Okay, no country should be colonized by another country. Now, after the end of the Second World War, the concept nation state emerged. Why? It's because many smaller countries of Asia, Africa, and Latin America, they started gaining their independence. That's the reason why the notion nation state has gained independence. Now, when it comes to your racial and national liberty, the most important is this. Okay, this should be the keyword under your racial and national liberty, that is the right to self-determination. So these are the 4 different kinds of liberty or the dimensions of liberty. Okay, now in the next session we'll talk about how we will safeguard this, safeguard these different kinds of liberty. So in this session we will end this with this topic, that is the different kinds of liberty.